What that allows us to do, and the reason why we've created our structure, is to be able to create a bigger farm asset or set of bigger farm assets that are able to really service these retail programs and be able
Got it.
to create efficiencies of scale.
Are you ready to transform your life? This is a no-nonsense show helping immigrants like you create generational wealth, even while working full-time. Get ready to take notes. Here's your host, Saket Jain.
Welcome back, Migrate to Wealth listeners. Today I have with us Oscar Baracaldo from Medellin, California, Colombia. In my head, I'm from like California. Weather is beautiful from where I am. I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's super cold. It's going to be 18 degrees tomorrow. You now hear what's the weather in Colombia. Let's not even talk about it. I can see your background. So it's probably 70s. But anyways, Oscar, thank you for joining the show. Appreciate you coming on. Before you jump on, I want to give our audience a little bit of background. So we have done, I think, a few shows right now which are focused on agricultural land, produce specifically. So when Oscar's profile came along my way, I'm like, you know what, that'd be a great time, especially because I just heard an article about the food shortage in the US. I'm like, I don't know how many other people saw that article, but I'm like, you know what, agriculture maybe and produce could be one thing that people understand more about, invest in it, and kind of go from there. So with that perspective, I offer to you, Oscar. Oscar, thank you for coming on the show, buddy.
Thank you for having me, Saket.
Oscar, I know our time's short right now. Why don't we quickly jump into your background a little bit, give it a little bit of perspective on where you are right now, what are you doing, and then we'll go from there.
Absolutely. So our office is based out of Medellin, Colombia. Behind me is the Golden Mile here in the city, where the financial district is based out of, and a lot of the real estate developments occurring here in Colombia. I personally come from a tech background. I used to work with a lot of rendering engines and a lot of web applications across security and multiple type of customers across the continent. Mainly in a big portion of my career, I focused on project management and development for apps and modules for big retail. So I got big exposure on procurement, marketing, and all of the big issues that we're having. And something that became very clear to me was the huge problems that we're having in procurement and just the large sums of money that are lost through inefficiency, and how a big part of that was farmland, and seeing how much of that logistical and consistency was lacking. And they have a lot of experience with real estate from my family background. We invested across South America, North America, Mexico, Colombia, and we've had a good exposure. We've gone through the great and the bad of all the upswings and downswings. We actually were there in the middle of 2008, 2009,
Right.
Real estate bubble. We had some good opportunities, and we got pretty ingrained with real estate in the US. But then seeing how everything was kind of evolving and changing, we've been slowly divesting away from the US and coming back. So Colombia made a lot of sense because of nearshoring opportunity, logistical routes, and just becoming a great partner for the US for its food needs. As you're saying, there's a lot of scarcity going around the world. The US is not the only example. It's also happening in Europe, it's happening in England. It's a shame. You know, it's a time where countries like Colombia, there are nearshoring opportunity for, say, the US, come into play. And as I like to call it, it becomes the Silicon Valley of agriculture.
Love that, man. Love that. Yeah, no, I think this, as I was telling you just before we got on the show, this is probably the fifth guest that I've had who has some ties to Medellin, Colombia. I keep calling it California. I don't know why. But anyways, there must be a reason why it keeps coming into my head, California. Anyways, this is good. So, Oscar, before we go deeper into that, into your path forward, you said that there was some logistical challenge in these retailers and in these procurement. What were those challenges? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. Great talk in great detail. Now we have short time, so I'll keep it very high level. Look, there's all kinds of gears across the logistical aspect of the business for big retail. But even though they're able to create all those trucking routes, all those movements, if they don't have the reliability from their partner farmers or partner distributors, it's all for nothing, right? So I think one of the biggest challenges that, big retail has been facing is the reliability and consistency of that supply, right? And more specifically, during the last 3 years with pandemic and post-pandemic logistical breakdown, that really multiplied. That's why you're seeing a lot of, those increments in your usual food or produce goods that you're buying at big retails like Walmart, Costco, just to mention it.
And Oscar, are you the company that you started, or you're managing, you're CEO of right now? Is that trying to address that problem?
Absolutely. So that's where we saw the opportunity from a real estate perspective. I think our overall goal by setting up Farmfolio and setting up ourselves to be able to manage this farmland, it all lies down into real estate. If you're able to lock down real estate today to be able to farm there the next 10 years, that's where you're able to create that consistency. And it's a win-win for both. When you're having conversations with big retail like we do, and the fruit from the farms that we manage actually makes it to the shelves of Walmart, Costco, the US and Canada. You have conversations with executives from said companies, and they'll tell you, hey, look, we believe that the farmers should get the big majority of the effort that comes from the produce, right? The problem is that we don't have the consistency, because sometimes some of this land is changing use. Maybe they're trying to flip it over into other real estate prices rather than farming, and we're running out of farmland. It's occurring in other places. I mean, just to keep it close to your neck of the woods, like California, you've been mentioning a lot, which I find actually great for this conversation. You look at places like Orange County. It used to be all orange groves. It used to be all citrus groves. Now you look at all that real estate development, right, that took place, and it's being replaced by being rural to now being actual cities, and that's occurring everywhere. And I think that's a big challenge for big retail, right? There's less farmland available because cities are taking over, right? So that's what we've done. We basically locked in great prime real estate properties with great soil. Colombia's got great weather, great soil, great logistical routes, and we're able to hedge and diversify the procurement of those high demand products into big retail. And we're able to help other farm owners like ourselves.
Perfect. So, Oscar, so let's say, I'm going to make a hypothetical case, right? So let's say you bought a certain acreage of land, for making up a number, right? And when you say you locked it up for 10 years, if somebody offers you $10 million tomorrow, are you saying that you won't sell it?
Oh, absolutely. I would. Yes.
But so then how is that problem? Sorry, go ahead.
Absolutely. So let me just expand on it. So by me saying locking land prices today means that we're going to truly rural areas that do have the appreciation component, but are not farms that are located, say, in Florida right now, where there's a lot of cases that you really see that narrowing down, right? The neat aspect of being in a country like Colombia, right, is that you're in an emerging nation, right? The economy grows at a complete different pace than what you would see, in places like Florida, like California, where a lot of those growths used to be for citrus, right? So we're able to go to places like a coffee axle that is a proven agricultural hub for, like, say, coffee, right? Excel coffee from Colombia is exported to all corners of the world from the coffee axle, and because it has that rich volcanic soil, right? It'll take some time, the next 10 years, for that farmland to potentially become subdivision parcels, actually part of towns, right? So you're able to say, hey, yes, I am able to log that land down for the next 10 years, right? Because it's located in a different place than, your usual citrus growth, like, say, California or Florida.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. That makes sense. And do you see this? See this trend? I think you mentioned that in the last 3 years, it has gone even crazier than before. Correct? That problem that we're talking about the procurement problem, that existed even pre-COVID. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Got it. And how has COVID made it worse? Can you reiterate that? I think you talked about a little bit about it, but I want to go deeper into that.
Yeah, sure. Look, I mean, with inflation, the cost was just all over the place. So it creates a lot of speculation, right, for big retail. And I think that's what COVID and post-COVID really fueled. Logistics broke down and it really extrapolated the problem, and then you take a moment there where big retail is trying to work with distributors that's working with small farmers. So we'll talk about that in a second. And the reason why we create a panic, right? They don't know what's going to happen.
Oscar, we lost you there for a second. Let me repeat that question. Can you restate that? I think there's some connection issue. We just got weak. You got super grainy.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. So I'm going to ask the question again. If you can repeat it, my team is going to edit it.
Sure.
Perfect. So, Oscar, that makes sense. So, let's talk about the trend. How does the trend differentiate it from pre-COVID to post-COVID? I'm assuming the procurement challenges existed even then.
Sure, absolutely. Look, the biggest challenge was the network of farms that may service a retail. You have small farms, medium farms, large farms that ultimately end up selling their fruit to distributors, right? And you can create a lot of intermediation. There was a lot of stuff that was up in the air. For a moment there, right? Fuel price, everything changed too quickly. So maybe at that point, because of those network of farms not being able to run, say institutionally, they weren't able to do things on par and with the quality standards to be able to have the best product and the production.
Got it.
So I think that's something that everybody faced. There was a lot of uncertainty, and I think that extrapolated, created higher issues across the supply chain. And then, specifically for our continent, you had a big pressure from China really sucking a lot of those containers of sea freight that created a lot of issues, especially, again, California. California had huge lags. I mean, you had, routes that used to be a week, 2 weeks that, compounded to be a month and a half. And that has slowly, come out into the soft landing that we have today, logistically speaking, where, things are back to normal, prices are back to normal, and it's making things go back to business as usual.
Got it. And so, Oscar, let's move forward a little bit. So, in your model, what role does a farmer play? Like, I know we talked about that. The big retailers were in the favor of giving farmers the biggest chunk for the fruit of their labor. Now, if someone like us comes in, you guys come in and are you now being an intermediary? Then how does the farmer get benefited from that model? Because I'm assuming it's in the best interest of the big retailers to make sure that the money is being passed on to the farmers on a fair share basis as well.
Yeah, that's a great question. One I get a lot. So look, I often get asked, how can you make farmland create the yields that you need? And what is the best way to own farmland, right? And every time I get asked that question, I tell people, look, the best way to do it is you should buy a portion of land and farm. But if you don't want to do that, or no, you don't have the time, you're trying to replace yourself or replace your income to farmland, which is, I think, a good approach. And we find a lot of people on our network that do so to be able to diversify and hedge against inflation or other things, because farmland does provide a good hedge because of the price of the produce and because of the appreciation of the land. This is a great route. We are a structure that allows a tenants in common structure on their, what we call an FOA, it's a Farm Owners Association, and it's the governance of the farm. What that allows us to do, and the reason why we've created our structure, is to be able to create a bigger farm asset or set of the bigger farm assets that are able to really service these retail programs and beyond to create efficiencies of scale. So say you're able to own a portion of a farm, right, and be able to share both the expenses and the harvest proceeds of that farm across the different owners of the farm or that farm asset, right, under a tenancy count structure, right? But ultimately, although being owner of a smaller parcel, say about an acre or 2 acres, you're still part of the farm that's institutionally run, right? That's be able to pick up those economies of scale and really able to sell directly to a program like, say, Walmart.
Awesome. So in this new model that you're proposing and that you're working on, and very successfully, is really trying to be that abstraction layer, so the farmers go farm the land at a great level, and then you have the superpower of a bigger acreage that you can negotiate better rates with a Walmart or Costco and stuff like that, and also give them the comfort level that a mom and pop farmer may or may not be able to. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely, yeah. Look, although a small farm can be very practical for a small family or small farmer, ultimately, a small farm is never going to be able to attain the economies of scale that an institution.
Sure.
Right. So it's power and knowledge.
Yeah. So Oscar, how does somebody get involved in this asset class?
Absolutely. So our website's www.farmfolio.net. You can find all the information you need. You can write us to info@farmfolio.net. Our process is simple. There are people that come in with different needs or different structures that they'd like to assess. We have people that are looking for their groups and are looking to own their entire farmland, and we have a portfolio of assets that are derived from our assessment across the over 29,000 acres that we have assessed in Colombia, and we built a farm for you. if that's something you want to do as a group. And we have that occurring more often as of lately. We're seeing groups coming in and saying, hey, we'd love to have a farm. We have doctors, tech people that come in and say, hey, we'd love to have a farm. And can you show us what you have for portfolio? We'd like to pick something for our group. Or you can also do it on the tenants in common structure that we have. We have current farms that are still having parcels available. We have approximately 70 parcels available right now between lime and coconut, which are our main spearheading produce.
Got it. And then these guys or gals who own the farmlands with the groups of investors that are coming in, you're basically, your model is still the same. You're not supplying them the produce. You're still supplying it to the big chain, correct?
Correct. Yes, correct. So you as a group or you as an individual who wants to come in and attempt to come in, you own your land, you own the trees on the land, and you own the fruit that comes out of those fruits. What we're doing is we're hiring a packing facility that packs the fruit, and we're delivering that fruit directly to the retail stores across mainly the East Coast. So you're telling me you're based out of North Carolina.
Raleigh, North Carolina. Correct.
Right. So that's a big hub where we deliver, and we have farm owners in that region. So if you, at any given time, during this year, when you get a chance, you can go out to your local Walmart. You see Colombian fruit that most likely will be fruit that's coming from our farmland program here.
Got it. And do your farmland, just so that if somebody's listening into and they're interested in learning more about it, do you have an outer-facing brand, or you white label it, or you get it, or you provide it for white labeling?
That's great. So we do both. Mainly, we're working under a main brand with the pack house that we work with and control here in Colombia called Valle Verde, which has a Valle Verde sticker, and that is something you see at the shelves of Walmart as well. And also, they will do the white label for, say, Walmart or Costco. They have their own film, and that's something they require, and that gets delivered in the way that they do.
Awesome. Oscar, this has been great, man. I wish we had a lot more time to talk into and get more deeper into it. But this was actually great conversations to put a teaser out, right? So folks who actually, this is actually great length, because it gives enough information without us deviating from the core conversation, which is investing in agricultural land is great. And there are multiple ways to do that. And most of us are not going to buy and farm our own land. We may buy the land, especially if you have the cash, but chances of us, all of us, or some of us becoming farmers, I don't see the probability of that pretty high. Maybe there's some would. So why not look at an option like that, where you have taken over the headache of farming, and if that was the biggest friction point, you have now basically eliminated that. So thank you again, Oscar. Appreciate it. Oscar, just one last question for the U.S., for the guys in the U.S. and the gals in the U.S., investors in the U.S., I should say. Are there any tax benefits of owning agricultural land outside of the U.S.? Are you aware of those?
We don't really give any tax or legal advice regarding your own specific situation. What I can tell you is in Colombia, there are very interesting tax incentives for farmland and specific products that are driven towards exports. Now, once those harvest proceeds are paid back to your account, like I said again, you can own it from as an individual. We have people that own through IRA accounts. We have people that own them through trusts, their own LLCs or structures. Once that cash arrives to the U.S., that's something that you'll have to talk to your tax advisor or legal counsel for that matter. And I know that that's a very one-to-one specific need.
Yeah, definitely.
Structure, yeah.
Awesome. Oscar, well, buddy, thank you again. Your information again, where can people find more information about you and your company?
Sure. You can go to farmfolio.net. You can write us to info@farmfolio.net. Our phone number is 786-558-2380.
Perfect. Well, we'll make sure that information is included in the show notes below. Oscar, thank you again, buddy. Appreciate it.
Hey, Saket, thank you for your time.
Enjoy the beautiful weather.
We'll do it.
Hold on one second, Oscar.
You betcha.
If you got value from this episode, you might consider sharing this content with a friend. But most importantly, be sure to take action on what you've learned. One way you can take the next step is to connect directly with Saket on an investor call. That link is waiting for you in the show notes below.